If you've been following along with the reflection time at all, or following John 6, which is what we've been reading this past month, there'll probably be a lot of questions that arise. But one of the ones at the very bottom of the whole passage is, what do you choose? How do you choose when to follow the crowd and when to go with the minority, or make your own path, or follow something else? In the story we have in John 6, it's very important. It's called the Bread of Life Discourse, and it talks about it's where Jesus talks about being the bread of life. And it gets really gory at one point in time where he says, "You have to eat my flesh and drink my blood." Now, they're metaphors. They're not really, it's not like Jesus is going to give you his bicep and say, "Hey, take a chunk." But they're kind of disgusting, and people kind of get stuck at disgusting imagery. So a lot of people were not prepared to hear this, even if it wasn't totally against the Hebrew custom of the day to eat flesh like that. They were just, it was disgusting, and they had to think about it too much. They didn't want to do the work. So at the very end of the passage, down towards verse 58, 59, 60, down that way, the people decide it's just too hard. They don't want to anymore. They don't want to listen to any more of this, and they leave. And then Jesus looks at his followers and says, "What about you? Are you going to go too?" And they say, "Where would we go? You have the truth. You have the answers we're looking for. We couldn't find them with anybody else. We're not leaving you." So it kind of begs the question, how do you make choices of who to follow and who to spend time with? I mean, it's be really easy for you to say, and for me to say, like, of course, follow what Jesus wants and it'll all be good. But that's not always the case. Not that what Jesus is suggesting is not good, only because it's hard to figure out what that is, especially when you've got crowds of friends who seem to be like they're going in a very different direction. And then you've got a church maybe that has some very, very rigid ideas about things that just do not work for you. How do you find Jesus' message in that? Well, there's a couple of things you can look for. One is it done in love? That's number one. If you see a church community, we've talked about this. If you see a community that says, anyone who's queer is bad and they're sinful, right away, that's just not a community that you probably want to be part of. Um, do you see a community that treats women like they don't deserve to be treated like equals, hides them, insults them, insults each other by using terms like someone's girly, or don't be a girl, or ladies come on, or you run like a girl, or something insulting like that? That's not how Jesus would like us to be. So, number one, if you're looking for a path to follow that is not necessarily the crowd, but it's not necessarily the rigid list of do's and don'ts, look for where love is in that. Look for the center where you can find an identity that maybe Jesus was part of. Because Jesus had a whole lot to say about economic exploitation. He had absolutely nothing to say about gender, about identity, um, about who's worthy and who's not, except those who are willing to risk, to love God, to put away worldly things. That he had something to say about. Of course, if he asked us to take care of the environment, take care of each other, make sure each other is healthy, happy, cared for, have a safe place to live, safe place to sleep, safe place to be. All of these can help you figure out what path you want to take. Do you want to take the path that is easiest? Then you're going to go with either where the crowd goes or where the rigid rules go, because quite frankly, it's really easy. You don't have to think about that very hard. And that's a choice a lot of people make. And it doesn't make them bad people. It just makes them people who don't want to spend that time doing that inner reflection that Jesus asked us to do. But if we're truly wanting to follow the path that maybe not everybody follows, but is where Jesus is leading us, we have to look for love. We have to look for trust. We have to look to believe in God. We have to believe God is bringing us to the teachings that Jesus had. And all of this is stuff that we can encounter when we read the Gospels and read how much Jesus liked and loved the people that the rest of the society didn't spend much time on. How Jesus brought to attention things that other people wanted to dismiss as unimportant. So ask those questions as you go through, and maybe that'll help you formulate how you want to choose your friends, how you want to make your choices, how you want to plan out where your life is going to go or dream where your life's going to go. It's not going to be the crowd if you're following Jesus. If you want to follow the crowd, you're going to really struggle trying to find Jesus in that, because the crowd doesn't like Jesus' teachings either. They're the ones that say it's too hard, it's too difficult, I don't want to do this, I'd rather go and do my own thing. So you have to decide. The rules are a bit difficult, but you can understand where they're going. Love first, understand first, accept first, trust first, and then you can probably find a path that satisfies your uniqueness and who God made you to be.